Paranormal Perception is part of the Audio Geekdom Podcast Network. Paranormal Perception is a full-bodied apparition summoned by 22 Creations Multimedia, LLC. Taking a look at the unseen world around us. A world of shadows. Unheard whispers. I see you. Restless souls. Strange creatures.
I'm watching you.
We'll explore these topics and more. Not for answers. It is called The Unknown for a reason.
Come and find me.
By the end of this episode, you'll have a new perception on the paranormal.
I'm watching you.
Paranormal Perception with Henry San Miguel and Wednesday Darkling. It is Paranormal Perception. You know what? Wednesday, I was thinking over the weekend, we haven't done an investigation or anything, either at an event or on your own or anything, but that made me think, you know, when I had another version of Paranormal Perception, this was a long time ago in a galaxy very, very near. We had the Haunted Bay on last year. That was pretty cool, but that was only local here to the San Francisco Bay Area. But I was thinking, there was somebody that I had on there. His name is James Edward Garcia. He has a channel called My Haunted Diary, and I was thinking it's his, obviously, but that actually could be yours, because the stories you've told me, the experiences, all the stuff that you've had, your diary could be like 9 volumes, and that's just the very, very beginning of your journey into the paranormal. But this one, this is similar to what we talked about with the Haunted Bay, where James goes out, he investigates, and locations that are known to be haunted. Some may not be, but he goes out there with a lot of equipment, a lot of stuff, and I will say it's a little different than what you think out there, where he actually shows you the entire investigation. Not every single detail. Some of them he might, because they are that interesting, but you do get to see what it's actually like when you go on an investigation. It's not all walking into dark shadows with your dark t-shirt and you hear a noise like, oh my God, what was that? Did you hear that? It's not that, because most of these things, he goes by himself. So let's bring him on. Let's bring him on Paranormal Perception, so the Paranormal Perception audience can get to know him. Like I said, his name is James Edward Garcia. The YouTube channel is My Haunted Diary. I have a link on the show description, so you guys can go there after we're done. But first, James, welcome to the new show at the Paranormal Perception.
Hello.
Well, thanks for coming on. So let's. I know the story. You told me the story, but again, new audience. So let's start with the obvious question: is for you, when did this interest in the paranormal? When did it begin? How did it begin? Tell us that story.
Started when I was young, I guess, from my own experiences, from my grandmother telling me her stories. She had psychic abilities. She was one who had premonitions. She would have things happen in her dreams that would happen after the fact. So she would tell me those stories, and she'd tell me what she experienced as a child, and mostly in Cuba, growing up, and things like Santeria, Brujeria, and all those type of ritual superstitions and things that they would do there. So that was something that caught my interest. And then with the TV, we had like one TV in the living room as a kid, fighting over it. There wasn't a lot of TV stations, but there would be haunted shows or a horror movie, and that right away was something I was interested in. So yeah, that whole field of the dark, of the paranormal, supernatural, was something that always intrigued me.
Can you remember a specific instance where something that your grandma dreamed that happened later?
Yeah, I always think back on a couple of them, but one was one of her brothers had passed away the next day after this dream. And so her dream was, and she told me and my brothers and sister that she had this dream where she was in this field of all this hay all over, and she was like walking and not sure what was going on. Next thing she realized, she was in a casket and being moved, by people are carrying the casket, and she's in the casket, and they're putting her underground with a whole bunch of other bodies, and they were going to close her in. It was a horrific dream for her, and she thought about her older brother who wasn't doing so well at the time, and she thought, when she woke up startled. She thought, oh, Felipe, is he okay? For some reason, it triggered that. So she was really upset. She told us the story, and that same day, we found out Felipe had died. So within, I don't know, that week's time where we had the funeral, it was in a cemetery. We had lots of hay everywhere, and here we are, carrying the casket, and she freaked out. She's like, oh, this is my dream. This is exactly what I saw. It was her in her dream instead of him, but it kind of gelled together, and so that made sense. So that was a big deal.
Wow, okay. That sounds really cool. So what was the most memorable part of your childhood with your grandma?
Other than the stories, and I used to love listening to her stories, there was a time that it wasn't just her, it was me, her, and my cousin, that we were in my cousin's house. Her father had passed away recently, and all these things were happening in the house, TV turning on and off, and things falling down, poltergeist type things, lights turning on and off, and hearing voices. I believe hearing voices. That one I'm guessing on now. It's been so long. But we were there, and I was there with just the two of them, sitting at a table where there was a chandelier above us, and there was noises going on, and my grandmother right away just started talking about, he's in the house still, he's come back, he needs to go, he needs to move on. And the chandelier started moving, and it slowly started moving more and more, and it was kind of going circular right above us, and it started going haywire. So I get up on the chair, my grandmother's yelling, you need to go on, you need to move on. And my cousin starts crying. I'm laughing. My cousin's crying. It's not something to be laughing about. I could find humor in everything, I suppose. But we get up on the chairs. I'm grabbing it to stop it. My cousin gets up there to help me because pieces are falling off. They're like plastic pieces. We're coming off of it. She's crying. So it was like a real intense moment altogether with that, with my grandmother yelling and pointing, he needs to move on. That was a very memorable moment, I'd say.
That sounds pretty memorable.
Yeah. Yeah, but I was gonna say also, it to you at least, it kind of sounds like after a while, this just became like, that's just everyday life to me. So when was the point when you yourself, do you remember thinking, okay, this is a little bit different than most, because I'm sure your friends, in school or wherever, your friends, they weren't sharing stories about there's somebody in my house and we hear voices, we all of that. It was just the typical, we're watching this TV show or that. So for you, it sounds like, even though you call it like I laughed at it or whatever, but it sounds like it just became a part of your life. I mean, is that how you started seeing it? Not really something weird or strange. It was just something grandma does.
Yeah, it was paranormal was normal to me, I guess. It wasn't abnormal, but as far as kids in school, the normal everyday kid I'd hang around or be in touch with in school, socialize. My social skills were really not very well. Because I didn't have a lot in common. Those are kind of things I couldn't talk about or share. So it made me feel like an outsider, and I've always felt that to this day. I still have that side of me. So I tend to be at times reclusive and careful on what I do say. As you grow up and do speak with others, you just can't say everything that you experience because they might think you're weird.
I just let them think I'm weird.
Yeah, I was going to say, unless you're Wednesday, then that's a whole different story.
Yeah, well, for me, and in the corporate world I work,
I
everybody,
work in the corporate world. I just let them think I'm weird.
well, that's okay. You know what? But you have to feel, I mean, ultimately, you have to be okay with that and, feel good about yourself. That's ultimately the key in life. To love yourself, to feel good about yourself is most important. But at the same time, when they say keep your enemies closer, I have that way of thinking too. So I know when I can read people and know that I'm not going to talk about that with them. Yeah, everybody does think I'm strange. To a degree, they go, yeah, that's James. It's okay. They let things go where somebody else, they'd be like, okay, something's wrong here. Like, nah, it's just James. He's weird. You got to expect that.
He's the ghost guy.
He's the ghost guy, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's go to the point when you decided, you know what? Let me start finding out what this is, and when you did, how did you go about that? How did you research? How to research? I'll put it.
Well, I mean, I was involved with just in the family. I mean, my mom had a Ouija board way back. I don't even remember when she got it, but it was probably one of those. Was it Parker Brothers, or is that the
I think
brand?
so. Yeah, probably. They made everything back then, so probably, yeah.
And it was based on, I forgot the gentleman's name who first put together that particular generalized Ouija board design. But so she would do that stuff, and we would do, I remember seances when I was a kid once in a while happening. So it was already there. So it wasn't so strange for me. But as far as bringing the whole thing of cameras and audio recorders to try to document things, that didn't happen until later. So I would say, it's probably in the late 90s, the beginning, maybe 2000, where I did some stuff like that. I remember going to, where was it in Florida where I lived at the time? It's the place where, gosh, the name escapes me. It's a community of psychics stay upstate. I want to say like closer to Ocala area maybe. And there's another one and up north of that. So I can't even say the name. Anyway, this place you could go to, and they're all about the metaphysical, the spiritual / paranormal. And I'd go there once in a while with family, friend, and hang out and just be around that. And they'd have places where it was known to be generally haunted. I remember once taking part in a paranormal investigation. That was probably around 2000. And they had all the gear set up, so they could record and monitor. Some strange things happened while I was there. But, so that's how it kind of happened. And then eventually, when I saw, I think it might have been, it was Scariest Places on Earth. That came out. And I was like, wow, seeing it on film, I was like, wow, all the things that happened to me in my life. I said, if I had that on film, or whatever, the audio, the video, all that stuff. And so eventually, seeing about paranormal groups and that were out in the area, ghost hunters had started, and it's real popular. And I was watching that. I decided to eventually join a paranormal group. I was doing some stuff on my own already, but I was going to try out for the Ghost Hunter show. I remember there was an opening. At that time, I think I'd already moved back to New York and Long Island. And I submitted a recording on an optical disc. And it was really a crude recording. But I never heard back from them. But eventually, I ended up getting involved with the TAPS group. And because I was in a paranormal group that was a part of TAPS affiliated. So I was around those guys, too, and did some investigations with a few of them. Yeah, it all led to that. But eventually I was just like, I just got to do stuff on my own because there's just too much noise and distractions from others. And I just felt like, I get so much better stuff I know I get stuff on my own if I have nobody around to get in the way of what I want to do in my way, and not being told this is the way we should be doing it, a certain belief system somebody would have. Just do my own way and see what happens. And I started doing it, and it was a good thing, and I'm glad I did.
So take us back to the very, very first investigation you ever had. I imagine for you specifically, because, like you said, the paranormal was normal to you, that it was just another thing. But when you had the cameras, everything, talk about what you remember, what you recall from the very first investigation you did.
Oh, geez. So I was already in a paranormal group at that time with my gear when I was doing some of that. I just remember being very excited. Heightened awareness usually kicks in, adrenaline rush with it. So it was just that very excited, heightened awareness kind of stuff, and just not knowing what was going to happen at any moment, to the point where I was thinking, okay, something's going to happen, something great may happen, and just having that feeling the whole time. And it was just like going into another state. But that was that. So I'm trying to think when I went on my own. When was I on my own doing my own thing? The first time. And I don't know why I have a blur. I mean, I just put out, not too long back, the end of last year sometime, an episode where it was me at the Houdini site, Harry Houdini's cemetery, gravesite.
Yeah.
And that's older than the very first episode that came out on my Haunted Diary. So it's just me going on my own and doing stuff. And I remember that was going into an abandoned place too, and watching out for the police or somebody coming at me for trespassing.
Well, I mean, let me go there. How do you decide where and how to investigate it?
Yeah, I guess I just ad-lib winged it, It depends on the place. So some places, if it's an abandoned place that I'm, for instance, trespassing into, I may not bring as much gear because I got to carry it around everywhere, and it's maybe not the safest place to walk through and go through. I mean, you're going to have ceilings coming down, floors broken, animals around, and you come up on homeless people, everything, all those kind of elements. And so I may not bring as much. So if I have to move fast and get out, I can. So if it's a situation where somebody's saying, hey, you can have this place to investigate, it's known to be haunted, then I'm going to bring more gear. I have time to think it through and set things up. And, I could, especially if I can drive there, if I have to fly there, and that's always a pain because you have to go through security and, bring in all this gear. They're like, why you got this stuff? They're more into security now than ever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I may not bring as much just because it's such a hassle, but so yeah, all those play into it. But so yeah, I always want to do some kind of audio and video, and at least maybe have some kind of a spirit box if possible, and that kind of stuff.
You made me smile when you were saying that, because every time we do an event or anything, we usually drive to there. So I've never had to fly anywhere with the equipment. So how do you explain it to the TSA when they take out a spirit box? Like, wait, this goes through radio frequencies? Like, what are you doing with this? What is this? What do you tell them when they ask you that?
Yeah. Well, I remember, for instance, the Geo box, the one I have, the one with the 2 speakers, my bigger one, the Afterlife Paranormal one. They're like, because the way George Brown put that thing together, it just looks odd. And I tried to explain it to them, and they basically pulled me aside. I was like, oh, here it goes. They're checking me in every which way. They're going through all my bags I'm carrying on with me at that point. And they're going through their machines with the Geo box more than once. And I'm like, oh, are they going to take it away from me? I feel like I'm a criminal all of a sudden. And eventually they're like, oh, okay. And I explain to them, hey, at least now it's not so bad because there's a lot of more people because of television and internet that, ghost hunting, we know what that is. Where in the past it was like, I don't know. But so, yeah, it's tough.
You're like, ghost hunting. Yeah.
Yeah, I try. And sometimes, it depends on some of the people are very cool about it. And there's others that it's a hit and miss thing. They're maybe not so into that, and they feel you're suspicious for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, do you tell them I'm going out to hunt ghosts, or I'm a ghost investigator? Do you tell them that?
Oh yeah, I go right for that because that is something that makes more sense than if I say, I'm a photographer and stuff. And then they see all these devices, the EMF meters and stuff. It looks strange. They're like, what the hell is this guy up to? Is this something that he's going to blow up the plane with, or, So
Tell them you're an electrician.
no, I'll explain the devices to them. I'll say, this is what it's used for. And I said, you want me to turn it on? They're like, no. Usually they're like, no. I don't want you to turn nothing on. And I always have batteries out of it. And then I've learned about a lot with what you can and can't bring on board. Some devices I just don't want to put through, other than carry on. If I'm going to put it to be taken on the plane without me, I'm worried that something might get stolen because it's expensive. So I bring my most expensive stuff on the plane with me. And then even with that, it's like, oh, this is going to be so weird. I know they're going to freak about it, but I have to have it with me. So the batteries you can take on, I think it's 9-volt. You can't bring on board with you.
Yeah.
Well, you can't bring the any of the whatchamacallit, what are they called? Camera batteries and stuff. The ion.
The lithium-ion batteries.
Yeah, the lithium-ion. You can't bring those on board. You have to check those in, and so those will be checked in. So there's certain things you can't. None of the devices I bring on board with me will have any kind of battery charge or anything in them.
That can actually go one of two ways. You can either, if you tell them what you do and what it's for, you'll either get the sideways look and it's like, oh, okay, or you might get a new viewer to the channel. You never know.
That's a possibility. I don't care if they think, oh, he's weird and all that. Please, think I'm as weird as you want. Just let me get on the plane.
Yeah, and don't take it away. It was expensive.
Right.
Yeah, well, also because of that, because now you're traveling more. I've seen more videos on your channel since the last time we spoke. But because of that, have you gotten it down almost to an art where you take as little things as possible, but still enough to get enough evidence and video recordings?
Oh yeah, definitely. That applies for if I'm going to go in an abandoned place or if I'm going to go on a plane somewhere. And sometimes I feel like, wow, it's not so far. It's a 2-day drive. Maybe it's worth it so I can bring more stuff with me because the place I'm going, I want to bring as much as possible. It's a place that is well known for a lot of stuff, and I want to take advantage of that.
Right, and then maybe you can stop off on the way. You'd be like, oh, and then there's this haunted spot at the 1-day point that I can stop off at, and then I get 2 paranormal investigations instead of 1.
Oh yeah,
that's how I plan my vacations.
That's the way to do it. Definitely. I mean, I'll usually say I'm going to a place that I'm going to have to take a plane or drive to. It's going to be a trip. On the way, I'm going to look and research any haunted places that I can stay at on the way and do that there as well. Investigate.
I'm always about going to the cemetery. I'm like, oh, what cemeteries can I visit?
I've done so many cemeteries too. Especially I try to find ones that are tied to some kind of haunted activity, that they talk about out there, or if it's like a really, really old cemetery, especially if it looks creepy, I'm interested.
Or if somebody's famous is buried there, like Marilyn Monroe.
Exactly. And speaking of her, I mean, I've been to her gravesite several times, and I did spirit box sessions there, yet to put out, and that's a few years back. So, yeah, I've done a lot of famous people gravesites.
Did anybody hear that right now? I'm assuming not. What?
That was my house.
What was it?
It was just the door opening.
No, I heard like
it's
a whisper.
It's not my ghost, though.
No, I heard like a whisper on my right ear.
Oh, you heard a whisper?
Yeah.
That was your ghost then.
No, that's why I looked. I thought you were trying to tell us. That's why I looked up. I was like, what? But you were talking and like, wait, what? What am I hearing?
No, that was your ghost.
Hello.
Marilyn Monroe.
Exactly.
Oh. Oh.
But what I was saying, he wants to be on the show now. But what I was about to ask you, James, is it's obvious, it's on YouTube, it's video, but from all the equipment you take, not the cameras, from all the equipment you take, what's the best one for you, and that it was the one that gives you the best kind of evidence?
Well, a camera is always the best for me because you get the video and you got the microphone that's built in, and you still can capture, EVPs, audio type things. So I always like to have a camera with me, no matter what. And if I have a choice, I want a camera that can also do night vision. So I'm on clinch, and it's like I could be able to film in the dark. I have that with me.
What tool just doesn't work for you? Like, you've tried it and you're just like, not for me.
Well, I'd say, I don't know if it's not for me as much as that it's not as important to me. It would be like an obelisk, where has the pre-banked words inside of it.
Mm-hmm.
The speak and spell, as they call it.
Yeah.
Speak and spell. Yeah. So I don't use those. And I mean, it's not like I can't use them. I've used them before, way back in the past. It's just, I can only do so much stuff. So that I'm not going to bring. I'm not going to bring like a crystal wand. I've done all that stuff. I really don't bring divining rods with me, although I've used those too. But if it's a place where they've used it and it's well known to capture stuff with that kind of device, maybe I will. I don't bring Ouija boards with me. That's another one because it's not practical for me. I have a Ouija board. I've got one that somebody made for me, and I haven't been using it. But to me, it's like I can get better, responses and something more valid quicker with the spirit box or ghost box, what do you call it? And I'd rather use that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Say take Wednesday with you. I guarantee you're going to have a lot of success with the rods.
Yeah, I use the rods.
Oh, I did too for a long time. I had.
Those are my tool of choice.
Is it? Okay, they're good. And I'm really not against them at all. And like I said, I use them. It's just the practicality for me. And you could do the yes and no stuff or go move around and find an area where it opens up. You notice there's like a hot spot as opposed to an EMF meter. But I used to got really good with them too. And I could do stuff and get a lot of communication. It's just a lot of practice and you get good at it. It's like Reiki or something where, you just in tune with those rods through your body.
Yeah. It takes a lot of practice and it uses a lot of energy. So you have to get like really good at just like channeling the energy.
Yep. I could make the rods move. I could make them do whatever. I could stand there and make them open and close just from my own energy. It got to that point.
Yeah.
You're not going to ask your usual question?
I am. I was getting to it. Calm down. So, what has been your scariest investigation?
Oh, scariest. Had a few.
But I want the scariest one. The one you were like, oh my God, did that just happen to me?
Yeah. Okay. Well, what comes to mind, I'm going to go with what comes to mind is when I was at the Rockland County Psychiatric Center in New York, and I was in the old children's psychiatric area. And I mean, this is the real old one. That's from 1920 or something like that. Or even it was around 1920. Had been closed down a long time, really fallen apart, but it has a lot of stuff still in it. The pictures on the walls of the kids, the paintings they did, their toys, their beds, all that stuff. And I was there, and there was in this place they have abandoned it's a huge center, abandoned buildings, and they have sections that are still active with patients and staff. And some of the patients are allowed to walk around. I think they put something on their feet like you would a criminal kind of thing to keep tabs on them, but I'm not completely sure. Some of them, they've been in good conduct, so they're given a little more freedom. So some will be coming around. Well, I'm in there, and I remember running in there because there was one coming, and this guy I saw before, and he make these loud noises and scream walking around. I was like, oh, geez, this guy, I don't want him seeing me because he saw me at one point, and he started following me. Anyway, I sneak into one of the buildings. I wanted to do it anyway. And a huge storm comes on. I mean, the skies, when the clouds came over, the dark clouds, you couldn't see. And serious rain and thunder, lightning going on, and I was hearing voices. I didn't know if that guy was in there or anybody else. I remember a cop car was going by, and it was a siren right where I was for whatever reason. And I was, oh my God, I'm in a nightmare. This is a horror movie, and I'm in it. I was freaking out. I knew I couldn't get out of there either because there was no way I could leave. My car was parked super far away. And like I said, it was pouring so strong and lightning and everything. It was just dangerous to go out there, and I didn't know what I would be going out to. So I remember I felt trapped for that. That was really scary because I had a lot of different things happening at the same time that was fear-based and scary.
Was there any like ghostly, encounters happening, like any shadow figures or creepy children?
Well, I remember, and I think it was during that time when I was there, at one point I did hear a kid's voice. I was laughing, and I was in a room with, like this is the beds and everything. The kids, it was like 2 kids probably stayed in that room, 2 beds, and I heard the laugh. And I remember, I think, some other voices of kids. I was calling out to them. It's so long ago now. This is probably early 2015, and I still haven't even gone over the footage. But that did happen. I remember things falling down or bangs, and I'm like, there's toys everywhere. So,
how could you not go over the footage for that? That sounds like gold.
Oh, I've got I have gold that I have not put out yet. Let's put it this way. Everybody knows like Waverly Hills Sanatorium. It's the popular place and all. And I've been there, by the way, and I still have to put that out. But I've also been a sanatorium in New York that I think it was called the Nassau County Sanatorium. Then it became another name. Been abandoned for a long time, and I think the Islanders, the hockey team, the owner bought the land and was going to tear it all down. So that place was some crazy stuff happened. I mean, they have hospital things in there, all types of things, and very strange things happened, very scary things. Still haven't put that together. I remember a piano was on the side, the strings, bing! I heard that, and I was cool. I was like, can you make that thing? It was like a big theater thing, and can you make that thing make a sound? And it did. And a lot of weird things happened in that place. And I got really sick on one of those trips there. I've had where I call it psychic attacks, but it's physically attacking me at the same time, where I thought I was going to die. At one point, I just went into a prayer mode. That happened to me while I was there. Not while I was there, but after I was there and I'd been back home. So really creepy stuff.
When you went to Waverly, did you go by yourself or did you take a team with you?
I went with my wife.
Just the 2 of you?
Just the 2 of us.
And because usually because I've talked to Waverly before about us going there and some other things that we want to do, they don't like people going by themselves because it's not that it's haunted or anything, but it is dangerous. They say it's more cursed more than haunted, where there's definitely a lot of residual stuff in there, and a lot of it starts affecting you mentally. You start getting like weird thoughts and suicidal thoughts and all that. So that's why they don't like a lot of people going in there by themselves. They like a team, not for cameras and all that stuff, but just to make sure everything's okay, just for safety. So that's why I was asking, did you go in there by yourself or with a team?
Yeah, and they're very strict about all that stuff there too. So I understand because it's a liability for them. Yeah. When I'm going to other places, I'm going, trespassing sometimes, and so there's nobody telling me this is going to happen to you. And they're a lot creepier than Waverly, and more dangerous too, as far as physically, something falling apart. They're really fixing that place up, so you're not going to go in an area that is unsafe to walk around. They're not going to let you. So Waverly to me was, I remember it affected my wife. She started getting real creeped out as the night went on. So it was harder on her, and psychically, I guess she was in tune with people that had died there, and she started feeling. I remember, I think there was a couple of rooms where she felt that she might even got names coming to her. I think it was like a woman who was reaching out to her, and she would start crying. She had all these little things that happened to her. So, yeah, it can be a little spooky that way, and it can affect you for sure.
So what advice do you have for people who are looking to get into paranormal investigating?
Well, if you're going to do it, don't do it just for, like you said, for the giggle factor, or, just, it's an experience. Let's see if something happens, like for entertainment. Give some kind of respect to the field and to those that have passed on. And for yourself, give yourself respect that, something can happen to you. Take it seriously. I mean, I'm a comedian when it comes to this stuff to a degree, but I'm also very at a heightened awareness state and actually paying attention and know what pitfalls can happen to you. So you got to be very serious about it. Learn about it, educate yourself on the science of paranormal investigations. Not just go there for the fun of it, but do have a good time and hope to capture something. But be careful what you wish for at the same time. If you're somebody that gets scared easy, you feel weak or vulnerable, maybe you should step away.
Definitely, that is definitely good advice.
Yeah, so again, the channel, it's called My Haunted Diary. It's a YouTube channel. I have a link on the show description. You guys can go on there and watch a lot of the. What do you have coming up? If you want to tease it on the channel.
Well, right now I'm putting out. It's the New Yorker Hotel. New Yorker Hotel, where Nikola Tesla lived the last 10 years of his life and died in.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I've been putting that out. And it's not brand new. It's from January of 2017. Like I said, I have an archive of stuff. Some of my scariest stuff hasn't even been put out yet. So this was a unique one, and I thought, Tesla, I got to get this out. So I've got 2 episodes out now. The first one was the exploration of the hotel with a group of people, but I wander off. And I was with the building engineer who was giving the tour. So I got that in the first episode, and then the second episode that already came out has me staying at the hotel because that was my main purpose. I wanted to stay in Tesla's suite. It's broken into 2 halves now. They got his room where he died, and then they got his office. But they were once one room for him, a suite. They divided. So I stayed 2 nights in his room where he died, and then one night, the last night, in his office. So I'm working on part 3, which is the second night in his room where he died. And that I'm going to have out sometime this month. Hopefully, sometime later this month, I'd say. But check them out.
Yeah, like I said, have the links in the show description. Go ahead and give us besides the YouTube, your social media. Talk about your music, even if you want to.
Well, I haven't been doing music in quite some time. I used to do a lot of music. I'm actually doing things with ventriloquism. I do a lot of different stuff. I love ventriloquism. I love dummies. I have a whole set of dummies in my studio room here, sitting in chairs, just staring at me.
Are any of them haunted?
Well, one I think is. I bought this one. It belonged to a gentleman that was an evangelist speaker, I guess. And he used to go out on the road, and he used this dummy with him. So this dummy has a lot of death tied to it. This guy had passed away. Well, he had the dummy. I think it was like around 1950 it was made, and up till he passed away. Which that part I'm a little vague on when that was, but it went down to his family, and his granddaughter had it and sold it to a gentleman that I bought it from. So he had passed away, and he was the only one ever used the dummy, and he had it for a long time. And the guy who made the head, Leonard Unsel, a German gentleman who lived in England, he was famous for making dummies or figures. And the head he made, and he's been dead since the 70s. The body was made by Fred Mayer, and he passed away, I think it was around 2000 or so, or something like that. So everything made or owned about this dummy figure has somebody who's died. And now I have it. And he's got some weird energy to him. And I've been using him now for just playing around. I gave him an English accent, or British accent that I try to do. It's a pretty cool character.
Yeah, we're going to have to bring you with us to when we do the Virginia City Paracon, because John Zaff is the haunted collector. He's going to be there. I think it sounds like a case for him. He should take a look at that dummy.
Oh, yeah. He's definitely got stuff going on. Some strange energy tied to him, but it's not bad energy. And we get along pretty good. I call him Dexter. He reminds me a little bit of Dexter from that show Dexter. That's why I called him that, the serial killer.
Right.
Yeah, well, actually, I'm laughing because you say there's nothing bad about him, but you just said a few minutes ago there's a lot of death tied to him. Like, okay, you sound like Wednesday. Most people run away from anything that sounds or looks scary. Wednesday is the opposite. Oh, cool, let's go.
Yeah, well, then Wednesday and me have a lot in common because I tend to go towards the things that people run away from.
Yeah, that's Wednesday. Yeah. Well, I don't want to give you ideas. I mean, you run your channel how you want, but do you think pretty soon we might see some ventriloquism on my haunted diary?
Well, I actually, there's an episode where for a second I have Billy, people call him Jigsaw from the Saw show. I have one of those, and it's a life-size, made one, but the mouth doesn't open. It was just made as a static figure. And I think I do what did I say? Want to play a game? I do something like that for a second when I'm talking in my green screen at the beginning of an episode. I think it's during the castle ones I did at the castle. But I'm wanting to do a separate channel just for ventriloquism. It's just I have no time for it, and I really want to do it. So hopefully I will start that up and start using my figures. I got some cool figures. I even have Fats from the movie Magic. I don't know if you ever saw that movie. It had, what's his name? Anthony Hopkins starred in it.
Yeah, I was going to say, was it the one with Anthony Hopkins? I think I remember seeing it once, but it was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was late 70s. Anyway, I have that figure made for me. I even got a Woof Woof doll from the Munsters that Eddie Munster had made for me. That's really, it's even more cool than his from the show. So I got that. I got a few figures here. They're all looking at me.
I think you should do it. I mean, watch this. Look, go ahead and do a voice for any dummy you have there.
Hey, James, this is a Dexter talking to you there.
See, the best part is you don't even see his mouth moving.
Yeah, see that? You can't even see my mouth moving there, huh? That's right, James. They don't even know if you're doing it or not.
Of course, that only works on a podcast. Just throwing that out there.
The old days, before there was television, ventriloquists, and there was that did ventriloquism, that when the medium of radio came out, you could get away with a lot, I'm sure. So,
you mean like Charlie McCarthy?
Charlie McCarthy. Yeah. So, for instance, Edgar Bergen never was the best when it came to lip. His lips moved, so you could see it, and yet he was one of the most famous for his time.
Yeah, there's a lot more leniency today, but yeah, back then that used to be the and even when I was in radio in the mid 80s, early 90s, that used to be a thing, a safe thing for actors or anybody that did that. If they said something that was considered a little risque, the dummy said it, not me. That was a dummy. That wasn't me. And
that's why I like the dummies, because I can say things that are. Well, they can say things that are a little bit nasty or, whatever you want to call it, not PC. Yeah. And I like that. Well, I should say they like that. They're bad.
Yeah, and as long as you say that, hey, you can't. I apologize, folks. I didn't know he was going to go that way. So, yeah.
Sorry.
That's how
Get
you
off
do
that subject.
So again, it's James Edward Garcia. The channel again is My Haunted Diary. I have a link on the show description. You guys can go and watch it. James, thanks a lot for coming on again. We'll have you on again when you have anything else coming up, or let me know, and we'll talk about it on here for sure. And we'll talk off the air. Like I said, we got a few things coming up that I think you might be interested in, especially the investigation side. It's something where you might be able to get some pretty cool, pretty awesome footage for the channel. So we'll talk about it in just a little bit. So again, for everybody else, Yeah, we told you about your new our new home, the Audio Geekdom. It's there. Is it haunted? I don't know. We got Paranormal Perception. We got a new show about witches, so maybe it's on its way to get haunted. Go on there, and there as well as some other shows, and also our other new home. See, we got 2 new homes. ParanormalPerception.show. Everything is on there. Wednesday story, my story, and more importantly, a list of where you can see us. All the events that are coming up that you're going to see us, including towards the end of the year, our birthday party, because we're going to be 1 year old. And we're just taking our first steps, just learning how to walk. 1 year old in September at the place where it all started, at the Biltmore in Lake Tahoe. Wait, is it Lake Tahoe or Crystal Bay?
It's Lake Tahoe.
Yeah, well, they say Crystal Bay, but I like Lake Tahoe. It sounds better. So we'll stay with Lake Tahoe, but we'll be there. And all of you can be there. And next week we'll come back. And yes, I won't say who, but we are going to talk UFOs, finally. That's coming soon. And
aliens!
Yeah, and we'll introduce you also to our new show over on the network. You'll get to meet them here. But for Wednesday especially, we have UFOs coming. Hopefully you don't get abducted or anything, but because actually one of them is going to talk about that, but we've got them coming and some other things. So we'll see you next time on Paranormal Perception. Follow Paranormal Perception on Twitter at ParaPerceptShow and on Instagram at Paranormal Perception. And watch our videos on Vimeo.com/Paranormal Perception. Paranormal Perception. Paranormal Perception was conjured by the Audio Wizards at 22 Creations Multimedia, LLC. Paranormal Perception is part of the Audio Geekdom Podcast Network.